All right, welcome to The Explainer. We all know there's that special bond between a teenager and their dog. But what if I told you that connection goes way deeper than just companionship and is actually reshaping them from the inside out? Today we're going to dig into the surprising science that starts with a simple cuddle and ends up in the gut.
You know that feeling, right? That sense of calm and just happiness you get from being around a dog. Well, it turns out science is totally backing this up. The research is pretty clear. Having a dog during your teen years is linked to real, measurable benefits for your mind.
So how does this actually work? Well, the answer is way more fascinating than you'd probably guess. And no, it's not just about the obvious stuff, like unconditional love or learning responsibility. The real story, the secret sauce, is all about this invisible exchange happening on a microbial level.
Okay, so to really get into this, we have to start with the evidence. Let's look at a huge study out of Japan called the Tokyo Teen Cohort Project. They followed thousands of teenagers, and what they discovered was the first really big clue.
And honestly, the data was pretty striking. I mean, across the board, teens with dogs had fewer social issues, they were less withdrawn, and even showed lower levels of aggression. The link was undeniable. But, correlation isn't causation, right? This just raised an even bigger question. What was actually making this happen?
And this is where it gets really interesting. The scientists decided to look past all the obvious emotional and psychological reasons. They came up with this pretty wild idea. Maybe the benefits come from a symbiosis with microorganisms, an invisible connection between the dog and its owner.
And that brings us to the star of the show, the microbiome. I'm talking about this bustling, invisible world of tiny organisms living inside every single one of us. And as we're about to find out, it plays a way bigger role in our lives than we ever thought possible.
So basically, think of it as your own personal internal ecosystem. These little guys help you digest your food, they boost your immune system, and this is the key part, they actually produce chemicals that talk directly to your brain. It's this whole amazing pathway called the gut-brain axis. It's a true partnership. Okay, so the big question is, how on earth does your dog get involved in this internal world? Well, it turns out you and your pup are sharing way more than just the couch.
Yeah, think about it. Every single time you pet your dog or they give you a lick on the hand, you're not just swapping affection, you're swapping microbes. There's this constant, invisible exchange going on, and it's literally merging your two ecosystems into one.
And this is where the researchers found their first big piece of proof. They took saliva samples and, well, the difference was clear as day. The microbiome of teens who owned dogs had a totally different mix of microbes. It was more diverse, and it actually looked a lot more like the kind of microbiome you'd find in a dog.
And we're not talking about some tiny, insignificant difference here. They pinpointed 12, that's right, 12 specific types of bacteria that were way less common in the saliva of teenagers who didn't have a dog. That is a huge biological signal.
And this is the million-dollar question. I mean, it's one thing to see this link, right? But it's something else entirely to prove that these microbes are actually causing these kids to have better social skills. So to figure that out, they came up with a really clever experiment.
So, to answer that question, scientists designed this pretty surprising experiment using mice. This is where they really put the theory to the test. They wanted to move past just seeing a connection and actually prove what was causing it.
And the experiment itself was just beautiful in its simplicity. First, they gathered up that special mix of microbes from the teenagers with dogs. Then, they transferred it into the guts of some lab mice. And finally, they just watched the mice to see if they showed more prosocial behavior. Basically, were they being more social and, more caring toward other mice?
So, what happened? Time for the results. What they saw in those labs is really the final jaw-dropping piece of this whole puzzle, and it reveals the truth about this incredible connection between teens and their dogs.
The result? It was completely unmistakable. The mice who got the microbes from the dog-owning teens, they showed a major jump in that prosocial behavior. They were way more likely to approach and investigate another mouse that was trapped, a behavior that scientists see as being more sociable, more caring.
So the conclusion from the study was pretty direct. Look, it's not a perfect one-to-one thing between mice and people, of course, but the evidence is super strong. It really suggests that these shared microbes are a huge reason, if not a direct cause, for those positive social and mental changes they saw in the teenagers.
So the big takeaway is this. Your dog isn't just a companion. It's a living, breathing probiotic. They are literally seeding your gut with these good microbes that then go on to influence your brain and how you interact with people.
It's well-being that works from the inside out.
And that's really the big idea I want to leave you with. This whole discovery just cracks open a brand new way of thinking about our environment, our relationships, all of it. It really makes you wonder, right? What other invisible forces are out there, shaping our health, our moods, and our whole personalities, day in and day out, without us even realizing it?